Well, welcome to See Hear Love. I'm your host, Melinda Estabrooks, and I'm so glad you've joined us for our second stop in our Coast to Coast conversation series as we literally go across Canada and hear from everyday women about their life, faith, hope, struggles, and challenges, and how Jesus informs their decisions and how they live life. So glad. Anne, my co-host, is here again with me. Hi, Anne.
Hey, Mel.
Coming from BC.
Yeah, it's a good old rainy day here in BC.
Surprise, surprise. I'm excited to hear from these incredible women who are Albertans. So let's start off. Natasha Lambert, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having us.
So where are you in Alberta? And tell us just a little bit about you.
Yeah, we are in Calgary. I've been here, living here for 8 years. I am from Alberta, though, born and raised in Fort McMurray, way north.
Yeah.
Where the road ends. That's where I'm from. And so you're talking cold. It is cold up there. But my husband and I, we planted a church here in Calgary just over 7.5 years ago. We have 4 kids. They're all changing ages right now. It's birthday season, so they're 12, 10, 8, and 6.
Wow.
3 girls and a boy, and it's fun. We love it here. Calgary is the best. It is. It's always sunny. The sky seems higher here. That's what I always say.
Oh, the sky seems higher. I love that. That's beautiful. Thanks, Natasha. Corina Kung. Hi, Corina.
Hi, Mel. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Having us all here.
Yes, for sure. Tell us a little bit about you and where are you coming in from here?
Sure. So like Natasha, I'm from Calgary. I'm born and raised in Calgary, believe it or not. So, what I am usually doing is I direct an after school program and I teach as well the kids. And I also love mentoring. I love just mentoring, whether it's kids or youth or young adults, especially young women. I live here with my husband, Art, and Evan, and he's 20 already. So he goes to University of Calgary. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Corina. All right, Christine Deb. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Christine. I'm coming from Edmonton, Alberta. I was born in Edmonton, but grew up actually in Kelowna, BC. So I came back here 5 years ago. I have 2 kids. They're adults, 21 and 19 years old. My passion is inspiring people and mentoring people. I've found a platform to do that with my current job. I work for Orange Theory Fitness, and I lead a team with them, and it's been amazing. So that's me.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
All right. And Jessica Irwin. Hi.
Hi, Melinda. How are you?
Good. So where are you coming from? And
so I am Jessica, and I am actually in High River, which is a little bit further south than Calgary. I was born in High River, and then I grew up in Banff. So I kind of have a unique story because there's not very many people who can say that. And Banff is just the most beautiful place. If you haven't been there, you need to go. And I'm an entrepreneur. I started a couple businesses, and I also am a mom of 2 girls, one 10 going on 16. And it's true, and the other is 7, and I'm a single mom, and so I just love watching my girls grow. They're my whole world, and I'm just so thankful for them.
Amazing. Well, I'm so glad that Natasha, Corina, Christine, Jessica, you're here, and Anne, of course, because we're really here to hear your story. You know, as women who are from Alberta, I mean, you've lived there, you've grown up there, you've been sort of transplanted over. You all have some very unique stories that I know that our viewers and listeners are going to really resonate with. And so I want to start off with Natasha and Jessica. And so Anne, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you because I think you have some good questions for Natasha today.
Yeah, hi, Natasha.
Hi.
It's good to meet you finally. I know that you're a pastor and that you're ministering to people during this time, which is a super unique time to figure out church and all of that good stuff, because we're not in the physical building, and you're taking care of all these people, and your family and your homeschooling and you know, like this, there's like so many layers to this. How do you take care of yourself? How do you ensure you have like self-care and health, and you are taking care of you right now?
I think that's a huge question. And I think even especially for church leaders, we had like COVID, but then there was Easter, and there was just thing after thing like right away. But then once that passed, I realized like, oh, wait a second. I don't think I allowed myself to really feel and process. And I started to feel actually like I was drowning or suffocating and not being able, like, how can you lead out of a place that you're not quite healthy? I have 4 kids, and I've realized through raising them that sometimes the loudest one isn't necessarily the one that needs me the most. They're just the one that's getting my attention. And so the one who's acting out or whining at me or crying a lot, and I have wonderful children, if they're watching. They're not always like that. But sometimes the loudest thing gets our attention, where the quieter things or the things that aren't like at us might need a little extra love. And so I struggle to use the word balance. I really think that I desperately have to go to God daily, even like hourly. What needs my attention right now? And that's where self-care comes in, is like just surrendering the fact that like, I'm not going to be able to do it all. I can't do it all. Something will suffer, but I think there can be a godly order, that God can give us wisdom and discernment daily, hourly, by the minute. What needs my attention? What needs my energy right now? And therefore, then I feel like things aren't dictating me. And my emotions aren't the one that's the steering wheel even.
Yeah, that's great, Natasha. Thank you. Jessica.
Yeah.
Wow. So as an entrepreneur, single mom, how do you deal with the demands and responsibility with 2 things that demand a lot of our emotional, physical, spiritual energy? For the viewers and listeners who are single parent, women and men, I think you'll have a lot to say in that. So how do you do that in the best way that you can with both?
Right. That's a really good question. And it actually is something that I've really considered over the last little while, especially with COVID. To be honest, a lot of it isn't even my own strength. The first thing, I know it sounds cliche, but the first things first is that God has to be my helper in it. And if he isn't, then I'm stumbling to do everything on my own, and it just never works out the way that I want it to. But another big part of it is the people who I surround myself with. I have a lot of really good help and support. And I think in times especially like this, or with managing a family and a business, it's important to have a good team and cheerleaders, people who can see things outside of how you see your current situations or circumstances. And so that for me has been really key.
I love that. As a single parent, how can I help and support you?
I think the first thing would be to not limit us in just because of our circumstances. I think that a big part of it is yes, we have all these demands and these things that we're doing on our own, but that doesn't limit us in our ability to walk out what God has for us. So ask single parents to help. Ask them when there's opportunities to serve. Be looking for those things for them too, because sometimes, because we're so busy and because our minds are so focused and because sometimes we feel alone, we have a hard time seeing outside of that. And so help us with that. Tell us when there's somewhere to serve, or for me, it's been a lot of times people telling me like, there's this opportunity for you, Jessica. What do you think about this? And it allows me the opportunity to say yes. So I think that's the biggest thing. Help us see the opportunities there are to say yes to things that we normally wouldn't on our own.
That's amazing, because that really kind of reframes and changes the way, honestly, Jessica, I would think, because I'm thinking, I would say, you're a single parent. I put that label on you and then assume that you're too busy, overwhelmed, and that you couldn't do anything. So then I would then not ask you based on things that actually I don't know. And what you're saying is completely, I haven't heard that. It's different than what I have assumed. Beautiful. Thank you for that. That was really encouraging and so good for us to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take now a quick break. And when we come back, Christine and Corina are going to share their incredible stories. And we're going to be hearing from Miranda as she shares a special devotional for Alberta. Stay with us.
Check out the See Hear Love podcast and get the backstory.
Good job.
Get the inside scoop on real issues and real answers on common challenges we all face in relationships and in life. Find See Hear Love on Apple Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Melinda, host and executive producer of See Hear Love, and I hope you are enjoying our conversation today. Well, you may not realize that See Hear Love is made possible by the support of viewers and listeners like you. So would you please consider becoming a monthly donor? Any gift goes a long way in helping us build a community of women and men who talk about real issues and struggles as we navigate our faith together. Well, please go to seehearlove.com now and click on the big purple donate button. Thanks so much. Start your week off with me in your inbox. Sign up for our weekly newsletter today for exclusive content of See Hear Love, blogs, behind-the-scenes footage, and access to giveaways you'll love. Sign up today and let's start our week together. Well, we're back with our second stop across Canada in our coast-to-coast conversations. I'm here with co-host Miranda.
Hey, Mel.
Corina, I'm so glad that you're here too. For many of you don't know, but actually Corina and her husband Art were really pivotal in my journey of faith. I came to them pretty broken girl in my late teens and went on a mission trip with them, and they just spoke so much love and grace over me, and it literally changed the trajectory of my life. And I thank them a lot, but every time I'm like, I didn't know I was going to get emotional, Corina, but we've never done this on a show. And so it's just so beautiful that you're here, and so thankful for you part of my life at that time. So Corina, you're a fourth generation Chinese Canadian. And I know that your story has a lot of expectations from others and yourself and identity. I want to talk about that because I know there's a lot of people who will relate to the struggle with expectations of how you are to be.
Growing up, and I absolutely love my parents, but they also, just the way that they grew up as well, there was just, you had to work hard, there was expectations. You need to be that, the lawyer, doctor, high achiever, awesome in math, which I was never good at math. I never did the stereotype of Asian, and so that was always a struggle for me of not being good enough, struggling with my identity. So even though I tried so hard in school, or I tried to do certain things in my life to measure up or to be enough, it was never enough. There was always that struggle, always in my life. And so on the outside, I may have looked altogether, even YWAM. I was in Youth with a Mission for over, 12 years, doing ministry, teaching. I've done a lot of things in my life, but it never was enough. That's what I felt, because I was trying to earn God's favor and earns God's love. Even though I've heard the message always, God loves you as you are. But inside, I still never comprehended or believed that. And so it's been a journey in that, just finding God's grace and who I am. So I realized what I do, whether it was ministering in Youth with a Mission or teaching or directing, that cannot be my identity. I attached it. God has still opened doors for me. Yeah. And it's like, what? Okay. It's just been amazing. And the one thing I see hope in is that he still continues to ask me to be fat, which is something we talked about in Youth with a Mission, is continue to be faithful, continue to be available, and teachable. I'm like, okay, God.
Okay, I can get behind that, Karina.
Okay.
Behind that. Okay. Faithful. What was it? Faithful and what? Available.
Teachable.
It's good.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what you're saying now, is that in that, as we're working through people, family of origin expectations, your own expectations, cultural expectations, that you are valued even if you can't do anything. God still looks at you and loves you. Right. And in that, though, you want to work at being fat in the way of being always faithful, available, and teachable to what God is saying and speaking to you.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is really profound. Well, listen, even what's amazing, I will say this, even when you are feeling that way, isn't amazing God used you and art to still continue to speak into my life in such powerful, profound ways that changed my life. Because you know that, Karina, and I say this, I was not at a place where I didn't know if I was going to be following Jesus in that new season. And it was like, I felt like I needed to go on this mission trip, and God put us together. And in your words and friendship, it changed my life. And so it's amazing, Karina. Thank you so much. That's so beautiful and so encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's super interesting that how God can bring people into our lives.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's through ministry relationships. Sometimes it's friends that he puts in our lives that, help us change directions, or a mentor. And for me, I'm always astounded by family. Those are the ones you don't really have control over. That just, you're born into a certain family. And so, surprise for us today, Christine is actually my cousin. Oh. She's my little cousin. And so I've known her whole life. So Christine, you have to unmute now, because I want to dive into your story a little bit. And you've had some hardships too, some challenges. And so the first time you were diagnosed with cancer was when you were 28 years old. And we all went through that journey. It's like one person is diagnosed, but you're going through this together as a family in some way, and everyone responds differently. And that was a challenge in itself and in its season. And then God, in his mercy, he gave you the strength and you overcame. And here we are 10 years later, and you have a second diagnosis. Tell our listeners how you responded to that news, because it was very different than what I thought you were going to say.
So this, after going through it the first time, I'm not going to lie, I definitely was like, I'm done with it. I've done all the treatments. It's never coming back. And I kind of went on with life. I never really even talked about the fact that I had the cancer, just because it was an awful experience and I didn't want to go through it again or even talk about it. When I got diagnosed the second time, which was November of last year, it hit me really, really hard. And I think a part of that was because I just put it behind me and thought it was behind me. So I felt like I was hit by a bus and I was lost. And the first couple of weeks, I remember just the whole world was kind of spinning. And this one thing words that kept speaking to me were to choose faith over fear. And it was so hard because in the beginning I was so angry that this was happening to me again. And I was trying to find answers as to why this was happening. But the more I chose faith in a moment of fear, it got me through every scan, every biopsy, every blood test, and every surgery that I had in the past. And, it was moments of fear that there's so much fear around just the word cancer. It's the worst diagnosis, one of the worst. But when you kind of just step out of that fear and that feeling and you really just let faith take over, it's amazing. I mean, there's so many people that comment on how am I so relaxed in a moment where I have an incurable stage 4 cancer. And, as you said, the cancer clinic doesn't give you much hope. And my calmness comes because I'm following the path of faith, and God's been doing such incredible work in my life.
Yeah, that's just so incredible. You've been really intentional to choose joy through your trials and just this season of extreme challenges. And how have you done that? What's a tip that you can give us as we close off today on how to choose joy intentionally?
For me, I would say that the choice is within each one of us. We can choose sadness and fear, but it'll make this type of season twice as hard. Or we can choose joy and we can lean on God, and incredible things start to happen. And I've seen it in my own life. So I would say choose joy and choose faith and choose God, because I couldn't imagine going through what I'm going through right now and not having those as the foundation of my fight.
I'm so proud of you. I love you. Mel, this is just
I love that.
I love you.
We got family, we got new friends, girlfriends. I need to thank all of you. Natasha, Corina, Jessica, Christine. I'm listening to you all. These are all things that every woman that I know needs. And there's these choices that we have to make. But what I'm hearing underlying all of this is that we can't do this without God. God, our tribe, prayer, it's this. We need people, we need God, we need to be intentional about our time spent talking with him, communicating with him. And I think, ladies, what a great encouragement as you've shared your story and what you're going through. So inspirational and so much learning. Like I've taken notes, of what you're saying, because even though I've been doing this for a long time, there's always new things that I hear them. Like those are really good learnings. And you had so much as you shared. Thank you so much. And I know that you have a special devotional for us and for the men in Alberta. Why don't you share what God has really placed on your heart for today?
Yeah, Alberta is just such a special place for me personally. So many of my family members have made Alberta home as new immigrants to this country. And so I really admire just the progress that has been made in Alberta. Look, I was studying through the Old Testament recently, and this word came as I read Deuteronomy chapter 8. There was just so many similarities in applying it to Alberta. So if you read that with me, it says, I've got NLT right now. Be careful to obey all the commands I'm giving you today. Then you'll live and multiply, and you'll enter and occupy the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors. So right off the bat, he's saying, be careful. I've got these commandments for you to obey. And then as you obey them, I'm going to, multiply for you. You're going to occupy this land. And then he reminds them the journey of the challenges that they have been on. And he goes through like 6 verses of reminding them all the times he's been there, so faithful to them. And then he lands on verse 7 to 12 and describes this beautiful, bountiful land. For the Lord your God's bringing you into a new land of flowing streams and pools of waters with fountains and springs that gush out in the valleys and hills. It's a land of wheat and barley, grape figs, grapevines, fig trees, pomegranates, the olive oil, honey. We could land on every single one of those words and unpack them, because that's what I love to do. But we don't have time. So this land is full of food. It's plentiful. And you know what? This is a fun fact. Alberta has been the center of resource for Canada, the entire nation. It is a fruitful land. It's a land known for wheat and oil. It's a land that provides for the country. And so my prayer truly for the province is verse 18 of that same chapter, chapter 8, which is seeing God in all of his might and all of his provision. Remember the Lord your God. He's the one who gives you power to be successful in order to fulfill the covenant he confirmed to your ancestors with an oath. It's like, remember him. And the word Lord there is Cha'el. It's this God who is strong, who is efficient, who is wealthy, who is powerful, leading an army. It's acknowledging the Lord. And so I pray that for Alberta, that as we experience God in all of his power, and for our personal lives, we've lived this out, this challenging times, these trials, that we're not just in love with the gifts that we receive, but with the giver. And because of that, our relationship is prompted to like draw closer and more intimate with him. Amen.
Wow. Preach it, girl. Thank you, Anne. Well, in light of that, I want to hear sort of some last takeaway thoughts from our guests. Your encouragement to women in Alberta and to the rest of Canada. What would you say as sort of a takeaway from our time together that you want to say to the women in Alberta and to us? Let's start with you, Jessica. What would you say, and whether single parent or whatever, whoever, what would you say as an encouragement?
I think that it's really important right now. Really allow yourself to let God speak to you. In this time, it's a quieter time where there's lots of stuff going on, but there's still pockets of space for us to hear from him and to just dream bigger. Be open to God speaking new things into you and new opportunities and new hopes and new things in this time. That's my encouragement.
Thank you, Jessica. It's beautiful. Corina, your encouragement.
I would say that despite what we're going through now, to embrace what God's doing. And it is difficult to change, but it is, again, like we were talking about, like, God, I'm just available to whatever you have to say and being faithful to him. And I want to learn. But it's like Christine said, it's like, yeah, we don't need to be fearful. I can give that to you, my worries, my concerns. I have to change certain things, but I want to be faithful. I want to be available to you, and I want to be teachable.
Amazing. Thank you, Corina, so much. Christine, your encouragement to the women of Alberta.
I would say, aside from the faith over fear, continue to seek God in this time, lean on him. And one thing that I'm practicing a lot lately is just simplifying my life and living in simplicity. I think one takeaway from everything that's happened over the last few months during this pandemic is really opening our eyes to the things that we do need and the things we want. And there's a big difference there. So I think a big word of encouragement for me is focus on simplicity, because there's so many good things that come out of that.
Wow. Thank you, Christine. Natasha, your final thoughts and takeaway?
Yeah, I just think don't get used to being isolated. Be the women that you wish you had in your life. And for some of the introverts, we're like loving not having to go out. Don't let that become your normal, because there are people who really need you in their world in the same way that we've all needed each other. And so, I think that's just a challenge. Be the woman that you wish you had in your life right now and moving forward.
Beautiful. I'm feeling quite emotional, actually. There's a lot of just the depth of your sharing and just hearing just a little bit. You hear the struggle and you hear the pain and the loneliness that you all have gone through at some point, and myself and Anne. And I think it's just beautiful, this sisterhood, that when we're eyes on Jesus, we can get through, we will get through, we choose joy. But I just wanted to encourage you so much, and thank you, all of you, Natasha, Corina, Jessica, Christina, and Anne, for your time, your presence, and for your lives. So appreciate you and the influence that you're having in Alberta. So for more information about these amazing guests, for resources, blogs, and bios, go to seehearlove.com. And as we finish every show, just like the sign behind me, know that today and in the days ahead, you are seen, you are heard, and you are deeply loved by God. Bye-bye.